Okay, it is 8:30 p.m. and it is April the 15th, normally called tax day, but it's not tax day this year. That's July the 15th. And welcome to week 2 of Introduction to Corrections. I'm Professor Richard Wright, and I'm going to be giving you details about the assignment for week 2 and let you know that I will be grading your papers uh, by the end of the day on Friday. So you should have your papers all graded for week 1. Okay, let's get right into sharing my screen. Okay, so instructor information, and it tells you here that the lectures, we have three more lectures that will be taking place, and that will be week 3, 4, and 5. I shared before, there's not a lecture for week 6 for this course. Okay, so now let's take a look at the announcement for this week. So for this week, we're in Module 2, Adults, Juveniles, and Criminal Behavior. And to prepare, it's important that you read uh, chapters 6, 12, and 17 of American Corrections. Um, I should have sent that to you. I'm pretty sure I did. Let me double check. Let me check the course messages that I sent. Okay, I sent the PowerPoints for week 2, and here they are right here, along with the materials. So you should be able to, you should have that already and be able to use that. So let's go back to the course home. And let's go back to the announcement. Okay. So uh, in the second week, hold on a second. Let me fix something here. Okay. Trying to fix something here. Give me a second. Oh, okay. I'm going to continue with this. I was trying to quiet down some noise I could hear pretty good in my background. So, but all right, now I got it fixed. All right, so chapter 6, 12, and 17 of American Corrections, which is a text. And then we're going to discuss theories impacting corrections, incarceration, and the criminal experience, special populations, adult corrections, and about the vocabulary review. Your discussion assignment, which was due last night, your initial post, adult and correction systems. And then on Sunday or Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard, your reply post is due. So this is the first week that you're doing discussions. Last week you didn't have any. Finally, complete the written assignment, correction systems, and then there is the quiz. Now, I do recommend that when you do the quiz, that you wait until you've gone through the material for the week and try to do the quiz by Sunday. That's when it's done. But of course, though, in this class, you might try it before Sunday, or maybe Saturday you might do it, because you get 3 tries at it. So, and then you know what my motto is: adversity is the springboard to success. We went over that in detail last week. So now let's look at the course calendar. Here we are. And this is where we are now. Our lecture. You could see what was due Monday. That was um, the reading details that are covered in the announcement, as well as your initial post that was due yesterday, and then your reply post due Saturday, and then then you have your written assignment, correctional systems, and then you have the quiz. So that's due for this week. And then you'll note again that the course actually ends May 12th. So basically, it is April the 15th. So you have less than a month before this course is over. So it ends on April the 12th. All right, not April the 15th. I'm sorry, May 12th, I should say, correction. May 12th and not May 15th. All right, so all assignments to be completed. So I will tell you this, that by the end of next week, which is week 3, heading into week 4, I will not be accepting assignments from week 1, 2, and 3 unless you give me a good reason why your assignments are not submitted. Just let me know, because otherwise I'm not going to be accepting those assignments. All right, so now let's close this down. And let's go and let's look at the assignments now. I'll go in detail. So this is your discussion assignment, your written assignment. Now, and there's a rubric in there. And so in the rubric, I provide details, which I will share with you in just a few minutes. But for this assignment, um, we're talking about, says, through research, correction practitioners learn more effective interventions to work with offenders to reduce recidivism. And recidivism, as you should know, is repeat offending. However, this knowledge comes the realization that our correct system is not a one-size-fits-all. Instead, the system involves many special populations. So you have different groups of people, men, women, individuals who have special needs. You have the juveniles, you have the elderly, and then mental illness, which is a big, big, big portion of corrections. And so these are just a few. So what you're going to do is you're going to select one of these, not two, but one of these special populations within these bullet points, and create an action plan. Now, there are, and so in the first part, you're going to select the special population. So one of these, all right? So then provide an overview of the characteristics that define this group, whichever one you pick. In the second part, then you're going to cover all of these bullet points, making sure and your grammar correct, and then provide evidence from credible sources. Make sure you put citations in the paper as well as references at the end. So tells you how to do an action plan here with the frequently asked questions. Okay, so make sure that you follow that. Here is the due date, again, which is Sunday, and here is the rubric. Now, I've said it before last week, and I'll say it again, that this rubric is not my favorite rubric, but this is the one that they want us to use. And so you don't want to be here. You want to be over here, or as close to here as possible. How do you know if you're over here? Did you provide these details, exemplary overview of the characteristics of your selected special population with supporting evidence? That's where we get to the issue. Notice here, if you don't have credible sources, you begin to go downhill. You can't do here, you can't be here, but you'll end up here, which means you'll get 5 points. Okay, and that's so you'll lose 4 points if you don't have your credible sources. Now, the more information you have that fits this. So this is the way that I would prepare my assignments, is I would look in the farthest column to the right and make sure I satisfy that myself when I make sure I've done my paper. So that involves the characteristics of the special population, the issue impacting the special population to get 28 points. There's a almost half difference to here, okay? And the closer you get, I would want to be in here or here, not over here or here. And you have the rubric so you can make sure that you've done it. All right. So exemplary description of issues with thorough alignment to special populations and thorough supporting evidence. So basically, once you start getting your supporting evidence, that'll show up throughout the paper dealing with the issues that you have here. All right. So you got to support the characteristics with credible sources, and you got to support the issues that impact that you discover from your research. Then you get to the proposed solutions, the solution. And you see down here, and again, credible resources. Get into the habit of providing support for your statements. And you'll learn this from me, that citations in the body, and in addition to what we talked about last week when you saw the academic integrity video about citing your sources in the body of a document or paper that you're preparing is a indication of where you got the information that you state, and it provides credibility to and supports your statements that are included. So that's why we say that the reference page credibility also by providing the information as to in a section where it asks for the references, you're giving all the information. Now, it's not, but being familiar with APA is important at this point. Here to the smallest part, your spelling and grammar. You can get 5 points here by doing this. You can get 1. So the key thing that you want to accomplish is to have your total number of points in the last column. All right. So you want to make sure that you have that, but you have to make sure that you follow what I just said, which is 60 possible points. Any questions about how the rubric works and what you have to do in terms of completing your assignment for this week? Type it in the chat box and then I will respond to it. And then if you don't think of any right now, you know how to reach me. You know what the rules are in terms of reaching me. You know how to do it. All right. By the way, make sure you have a cover page also. So I see there's no questions. So I'm just going to keep going. All right. So you got how to do that assignment. And then of course, the next one, I already told you when you get to the quiz, true or false questions. It's a time quiz for 30 minutes. And remember, in this instance here, you'll have 3 opportunities to complete this quiz before the due date. And as I said, the due date is Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard. Someone asked a question. Let me see what the chat says. Working in the working in the corrections, does it count as a credible source? Yeah, but what you have to do is just provide the information, like the name of the agency, the same way we do any other, as if you didn't work there. But you can provide that information. But well, you don't have to back it up from another source. But what you do is you back it up with the name of the agency, um, and that's how you provide that information. So when you start to deal with the issues, then you get where you got that from, and that's from um, uh, Chattahoochee Department of Corrections. That's that kind of thing. I just threw out a hypothetical name. You got it? Okay. All right. I saw the 10, then I saw the 4. Got it. Okay. Um, Bryce actually works in corrections. That information was shared last week in the student lounge. And so he's going to be a person who will probably be able to uh, utilize the work experience. And listen to me, guys, it's always good to use your work experience if you're taking a course like this. Somebody might ask, well, why are you taking the course if you are already working in it? Well, that's a funny thing because when I was in law school, uh, and I told you I was a law librarian and a law clerk before that, I still had to satisfy the requirements of taking the course itself, but it was easy for me. So it's one of the things. So uh, I have had a number of students teaching this course and in other courses that were working in the Department of Corrections already, and I appreciate them because they add something that I might not say. And yes, well, that's what I say to myself as a professional in what I do. In the many years I've been in uh, the law business, dealing in all areas, always good to learn something. And you can learn something new every day. Like I talked about the firm fair and consistent thing, I learned that from a student first, and then I saw it in several interviews with correction officers. So yeah, you're correct. So we can all help each other. Now, so the quiz, you know how that works, but you get 3 times to do that. Now don't get used to that, because this is the only class that I know of that they did this with. And I think they did this because it was a new class. I don't know if they'll continue in the future, but enjoy it while it's here. And then your live classroom phrase or comment that I give, and I usually give that near the end, but actually I talk about it during the lecture. And sometimes I'll ask students to tell me what they think it is, and then I will tell them if it's the one I have in mind, because I don't have it in mind right now, but I will by the time we conclude this. So those are the assignments for the week. Those are the assignments for the week. All right. As you know already, the live classroom lecture, I think let me see, I think I changed your live classroom lecture due date. Um, key phrase. Let me see. I think I did. Let me go back here. Uh, oh, here. Let's see. I think your live classroom lectures are due Mondays. So wait a minute. Let me go back to make sure I fixed that on the calendar that way. I think I did. Let's see. Course calendar. And that's because there's a delay in me getting the recording to you. I think I put it in here. Yeah, yeah. So it's there. So it is due on Monday. This is your written assignment and your quiz. That's due. Written assignment and quiz. Why is it not showing quiz? There we go. Quiz. All right. So yeah. So your key phrase normally would be due Sunday, but because those people who are not in the lecture, which I'm happy to see that there are many of you here, that you'll be able to get your key phrase right away. So that's that. So now, before I get into the actual lecture, which will last roughly about a half an hour or so, any questions about the assignments? Final time. Okay. Um, Special populations, you have to change how you work with them because there is not the same as a normal offender. Yeah, I think that's included in the assignment itself, and it's in the comments. There are other things that are harder for them to understand, like how they grew up and so forth and so on, such as dealing with, yeah, PSD huge, and what does the community do to help the people. Yeah, these are all things that you learn from working. Um, yeah, yep. And see, you know what? You can add additional things to that. And that's why I said again, thank you for providing that information. And if you look at the assignment one last time here, I keep getting my ears, something's like something's climbing in it, but it's not. Okay, it says, though research and corrections practitioners are learning more efficient, effective strategies to work with offenders to reduce recidivism. However, it comes to realization that our corrections is not a one size fits all. And that's kind of like what you just said a few minutes ago. And then it involves these different populations, which have very, very um, different issues for each of them. But individuals themselves, you're always going to run across that as a difference. So that's a good point. All right. So let's get into the lesson content. One topic is good enough. One topic is good enough. I don't want you to have to do two. One topic is all you have to select. All right. So we're going to deal with client special populations, theories that impact corrections and approach to those individuals, and explain the key difference between adult and juvenile corrections. And then, of course, we're going to talk about each of these sections. I've already talked about discussions, the written assignment, the quiz, and the live classrooms. So, um, dealing with theories of impacting, uh, we click on the link and it opens it up for us. And so you could you hear what the lady just said? Can you hear anything? Okay, let's go back because I forgot I had to do this. Now, can you hear it? Can you hear them now? Kinda, yeah. There's this is one of the problems that I ran across in this course before I told them that they needed to fix it, but apparently they have not fixed it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Let's see, turned it up. It's up as high as it'll go. Let me see if mine. Yeah, the headphones, the speakers are loud as they go. I got to go back. This is not working well. So I hate about this one. I remember when I ran into this in week 1 last time, week 2. Yeah. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to go with a different approach with this one. Hold on, let me stick my mic back in. Okay, now you can hear me. Okay, what I'm going to do with this, encourage you to look at the link, and so that you'll be able to get the information for the various theories that impact corrections. And so what it amounts to, quite honestly, with all of these individuals is that they give some historical reasons or historical theories that you learn in school. Even those of you who are actually doing it as Bryce, you will discover some of these things that you might recognize, but you might not call them. I'm sure that in your um, organization, Department of Correction that you work in, Bryce, that they give what they call continuing education, or you have special training that they give to the officers themselves, as probably, you know, we did when I was working as a police officer. We had to go to seminars, and we learned about all these different theories, where you're going to get most of the information here from your Yep, the PowerPoints that I submit to you, and then you'll be able to utilize the PowerPoints. So I'm not going to use this particular section for theories. All right, so you'll be able to, and you're going to be able to discover, quite honestly, if you do the reading and use the PowerPoints, you're going to be able to get this very same information in those sources. I guarantee you that these are in that PowerPoint. So let's move right into incarceration and prison experience. And they talk about how things overlap. There's what they call the custodial model, the reintegration model, and the rehabilitation model. Now, and it talks about the fact that the custodial model is basically dealing with discipline. That's the key word that you're dealing with when it talks about the custodial model. The I'm going to do rehabilitation last. The reintegration model is where you emphasize preparing the individual to go back into the community and be able to function once they leave uh, the jail or prison, such as in prison, uh, the probation department, or getting them ready so that they will be able to finish not their total sentence while behind bars, but to take those and then get those individuals so that they're prepared to be able to function back in the community. Because what happens is that you will learn this, why it says reintegration, is that when an individual is incarcerated, they adapt to the style of their peers in order to survive in there. If they don't adapt to those, um, to the peers and how they operate, then it makes their time much longer in their own minds, or it makes it tougher for an individual. It's just like anything else, that when you're involved in a certain type of area of work, you become associated with those individuals who work in the same area. If you're in law enforcement, if you're an attorney, if you're a paralegal, if you're a probation officer, parole officer, and so forth and so on. And so what happens is that these individuals who are incarcerated, they find themselves uh, operating differently than they did before they went in there. And so, but you got to get the inmates, we say, deprogrammed from the style of living that they had when they were behind bars, because it's a totally different world outside than inside. Okay, so here's what I'm going to tell you about each of these once I get to the combination here. And then my favorite. See, my favorite is rehabilitation, where you deal with the treatment of individuals. So rehabilitation is, first of all, you have to know what the problem is that the individual had that got them there in the first place. What's a common problem that lands individuals in jail behind bars? What's a common issue? Well, yeah, some don't know anything but jail. But what's a common thing that individuals need help with? Don't have a father figure. Well, yeah, but in terms of what's a common thing that needs to be treated? Okay, addiction. That's it. That's the one I was looking for. And usually that's alcohol, but drug addiction. And unless you address those issues, those individuals are going to be kept in behind bars, and then they're going to be released. And are they going to be any different than they were when they went in, when they're released without getting the treatment? Are they? No. In fact, it might be that they're actually going to be worse. The reason being is because of the fact that they have been impacted by the change in the community that they live in, and then they still came in with the problem that they had, and you never addressed that problem. So when we use the term rehabilitation, we rehab something. That means we want to turn them in another direction, get those individuals to do what we call a 180. Yep, that is absolutely true. There are more drugs in prison than on the street. I'm glad you said that, because of the fact that people tend to think that that's not true, but oh, it is exactly as we discover, and that's I will tell you this, and I'm sure that Bryce would support what I'm about to say, is that there are individuals who go in and their problem is not as bad with drugs, but it increases because of the stuff that you're able to get now. But keep in mind though, when you do get those drugs there, you got to do somebody a favor, and they control you, and and you can't go anywhere because you're there. So you're stuck in the environment. But anyway, um, dealing with one other issue that's really huge, other than drugs, what's another major issue that you might see that inmates have that's not addressed adequately, that can cause them? There we go. There we go. Mental illness. That's it. That was exactly what I was thinking. And you will be surprised that mental illness and addiction go hand in hand. Can you imagine a person who's addicted and they have mental problems? That's a volatile individual. That's a person you can give them 100 days in prison and they'll come out, if not worse, then it would be this disastrous for society in itself, because we're not locking up people forever for crimes. So we want the old theory of believing that, okay, deterrence. How many believe deterrence is a great model to use? Anybody think deterrence actually really works? Does it? When you use, well, it depends. Okay. Anybody else? Here's the theory in deterrence. Deterrence simply means that you should learn from being behind bars not to do something, so that when you get out, you'll think about that so that you don't end up going back. Very, very, very small. But yeah, well, of course, let me qualify that. Deterrence without an individual who has drugs or without a person who has mental illness, even the normal individual, and I use that in quotes, is that, yep, mental illness is a bomb. And it is something that it just has to be dealt with, because and there are, the most of the population that you have in prisons have mental illness, even if it's not seen at the beginning. It's there. And what really put them there in the first place was their mental illness. So if you don't deal with it, but to my point about deterrence is this, is that deterrence only works as long as the individual is removed from general society. In other words, they're behind the bars. But guess what? If you want to learn how to be a criminal, do you learn it on the streets well, or do you learn it in prison well? I know what Bryce is going to say. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Prison. Yeah, because of the fact that I always call prison the university of criminology. You want to get a doctorate degree in being a criminal, the longer you stay. That's why long sentences don't deter people. What they do instead is they give them a chance to become a different individual. And when they become that different individual, then they're not really helped. They're going backwards. So anyway, back to my point here about these three methods. Custodial model, security through discipline. Yeah, you have to have some, but if that's the main focus, then that's back where we're talking about deterrence. Reintegration, yes, you got to prepare these individuals to go back into the community, but you must address the primary issue that caused those individuals by providing adequate treatment to address the needs of those individuals, as it says here. And that's something. Now, notice this little thing here. See how, now look at this. They got all of, they enter. In other words, even with the rehabilitation model, you should have some reintegration and you should have some custodial. Now, look at what happened though with the custodial model. You just have rehabilitation with the custodial model. With reintegration, you just have rehabilitation. So what I'm saying is that the rehabilitation model has parts of all three, even though it's small, but the main focus is this, but this is also, and this is also involved there. Everybody get what I'm saying here? Yeah, they are. They are different worlds. They are. Everybody got it? And doesn't that make sense? What I'm saying is that if our goal is to concentrate on rehabilitation of an individual, that we are doing it because we're preparing them to go back into society. And then we also got to remind them that you got to be, you got to pay a price for making a mistake. And so that's it. But we don't focus on that. See, with the custodial model, you're focusing on that. And like I said again, you're just not going to help the individual in the long run. And then you'll be just like when I started practicing law in 1978, I represented individuals. By the time I retired in 2000, I not only had represented them, but I represented some of their children because of the fact that they developed the same habits. And some of them were old and they kept coming back and forth. But then the question was, do we want to address the real issue here? I have heard one of my former um, role models, a guy who was a judge, Eugene Pencham, and he was a criminal defense lawyer prior to, you may have heard me talk about him last week, but he was the one that suggested I became a criminal defense lawyer to learn about the system. Well, Judge Pencham had a theory that he shared with many of us that they don't want to operate on rehabilitation too much, because if rehabilitation uh, brought larger numbers out, then that would be less of a need for correction officers, probation officers. In other words, the people who work in the criminal justice field might have to be out of work, because the commodity that keeps people employed are inmates if you work in corrections. Am I right, Bryce? The inmates themselves. Yep. And unfortunately, there's an imbalance in those. And then have you, or how long have you been working in corrections? How long you been working in corrections, Bryce? How long? 1 year. Okay, now you will probably begin to see, as you continue going forward, individuals who have been incarcerated, and then you'll see their younger members of their same families coming in and being released. And it's going to take a number of years for you to see that. But my student who has been in corrections for many years, yep, it becomes, you see families because it's within that group. But that's because of the fact that um, they're individuals who they have a way of life in it. And you have some really good stuff. Dad murders son, yeah. Uh, Two families. But I'm saying this is even just from 1 year. But you just keep staying tuned, and you're going to discover that by the time you get to 10 years, if that's where you stay that long, uh, many correction officers um, will tell you this. Yeah, it is sad, but that's because we don't deal with the rehabilitation model on a higher scale. But my point is that they will tell you this, is that you get burned out after 10 years. At 10 years, people want to go do something else. They want to do something else in criminal justice, because it gets pretty hairy when you're dealing with those issues. So anyway, so we get we're quite clear on what we're talking about. And so if you read the rest of this stuff, and I'm not going to go over each and every one of these things, because you can read these yourself, where it talks about the um, uh, the ability to protect the public um, by security. In other words, putting them behind bars, removing them from the community. But just remember is that there are problems that they're going to face, such as um, personal injury, fear, loss of confidence, and there's all kinds of situations. I dealt with clients who would tell me that they were inmates, and not most of them were in jail and not prison, would want me to file a motion because someone in there, you all have what we call jailhouse lawyers. Do you know about jailhouse lawyers? Anybody heard about the term jailhouse lawyers? I know Bryce has probably run across it. These are individuals who are incarcerated, and they go to the library and they write these motions up. Now they're starting to use laptop computers and things like that. Before it was handwritten, and they would want to file these things in the court. Um, and there are what we call, yep, that's true. And then there's what we call 1981 cases. You know about 1981 cases? Kind of comment about those we kind of comment about those this week's discussion. You know what 1981 cases are? Civil rights cases that are filed by inmates because they want to try to tie something that they want done all the time. And but that's why there's limitations, which if when you get into discussion posts and read each other's discussion posts, I read yours, Bryce. It laid it out, and then there were some things that I added in to my commentary as a professor as well. But anyway, the point of the matter is that prisons have various levels. They have maximum security, medium security, minimum security. Now, in places where there are max security, these are the bad dudes. I mean, they are incorrigible. Now, let me say this to you. Um, that's where you're in, and now it's max. So you have what we call hardcore criminals. But let me tell you this. If you adopt a philosophy that in a maximum security, that you're just going to operate with the custodial and not focus on, do you think that individuals who are in maximum security facilities uh, can be salvaged? Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, this is yep, max minimum max guys are classified as super max. But yeah, of course, everybody can be helped. And that's where you as an individual are going to find yourself with the challenge in working in corrections is, can you help someone that somebody else might not want to help? Now you got to be careful. You got to remember what the three words: firm, you got to be fair, and you got to be consistent with it. So and if you're not that, you hung your butt out to dry, and you can end up. Um, so, yep, good. Help one person. That's one. Each one, reach one, teach one, and that will help, and that will grow and grow. And that's the philosophy now that more and more correction officers are developing. But anyway, in the max security, you have the big walls, the old prisons that you see with the barbed wire, and also there are certain hours that the individuals can be out. So you talk about where the design and organization minimize the possibility of escape, and you segregate these individuals as much as possible. And these are individuals who commit these very serious offenses. Then you got the medium security, where there's less rigid restrictions on visitors and offenders, where you have certain wings, certain sections, and so forth. You know, yep, and they can leave and go to work depending upon, and even go to school sometimes outside. But then you get the low risk. Now, the low risk involve juveniles, females, and individuals who are males who non-violent offenders pretty much fit within this category. And it's more like, um, as I said, it's like a college campus or a school campus where it's surrounded by a fence, and it's secure, but it it's more. Here's the way I put it: it's more humane. That's where I put it. But you cannot take individuals though who have offenses that are violent and put them in those. Oh no, that's like giving candy to a baby. Uh, yep. Now you're talking about the female population. Um, yeah, and you know what has happened with females is what I learned and discovered is that many of the females who go to prison because of trying to appease a man. That's generally somewhere along the line. It's going to be either appease a man or do something to a man, and that's why many female inmates are incarcerated, and the numbers are going up. And that is, female inmates have the same problems like drugs and alcohol, but females have very special problems, such as being away from their children. You know, it's a bad move to separate a mother from her children. And so that's why one of the issues that's pretty challenging in female institutions is suicide, because if you have some problems, then you're taken out of a totally different environment that you used to live in. And then you're placed in an environment where uh, it's just foreign to you. It's just foreign. Okay, so we talked about that already. So the prison experience is something that you should just be aware of the fact it's a different world. And it, and it and the concept of the term prisonization, what it amounts to is that basically the the systems and how they operate. There's what's called the inmates have their own little codes between them, and how they are perceived by their peers. Uh, like it says things like never rat on a fellow inmate. That's a bad move. Don't be nosy. Play it cool. Do your own thing. Don't whine. Don't cop out. Don't break your word. Don't steal from inmates. And then it says, listen, and I'm sure Bryce knows that's true. Don't trust the guards, because the guards are part of the establishment. and those kind of things. So those kind of things are things that we were talking about earlier that cause individuals to change. So going through here, you'll learn that there are many, many, many things within the community and the prison experience. Um, the money, it says the economy, uh, yeah, people want food, they want clothing, and they want nice housing. There's an organization that I don't know if you've heard of them, but I've heard of them through Illinois, and I think they're all over the United States. It's called the John Howard Association. Has anybody ever heard of John Howard Association? Yes. And so what the John Howard Association does, it assures that prisons are more humane and that individuals are treated as humans, and that you don't treat them like it's them and us. No, it's actually all of us. It impacts the lives of individuals in there. And so what they do is they make sure that prisons are a place where a person can not be placed in um, poor conditions um, in there. I have seen prisons where I've visited where, and these are maxes, where everything is done in that one room. Everything is done in that one room. Everything. Did I say everything? I mean, they sleep in there. You have your food in there, your toilets in there, and you know, those kind of things. It's almost like the old thing that you see when individuals oh, Kansas under investigation because of a riot in another facility because of the COVID. I figured that this would create all kind of problems. There are already lawsuits that are filed here in our area here for individuals who were living in conditions. So, but it's really an issue that here's one of the things that you should be aware of if you're a correction officer. The inmates there learn how to become what they are, bring in what they had already, gets worse, and now they're stuck there. You can leave and you can go home, but they're there. So you're the enemy. And then the other thing is this, is that they have their own little society that operates. And as I said, you operate by adjusting with your peers. And so what happens is that they also they'll use you to get a case that can help them. And that's why that firm, fair, and consistent is so important. So it's very, 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 very important that you understand and get this. It says we have 0 cases where we are, and we just got masks for everyone. That's good. But those are the kinds of things that you would want, and that's what an organization like John Howard will do, is they will cause those kind of things happen. I appreciate those comments in the chat. I can't read them all, but your classmates, they can all see them, and they're all really good. And that was why I knew that I was going to enjoy having you as one of my students in this class, because of your experience. Now, we started talking about 5 factors here. Let's look at those 5 factors that deal with violent factors. So here's what we have here, and these are problems. Inadequate supervision by staff members. It's because what happens is that there's not the economy or the budget for the institution is not adequate enough to hire the population that is in the facility. In other words, they have more people coming in and not enough individuals who they can afford to hire and pay. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. 82 to 1 population. That's a lot. That's a lot of people to have to deal with. And so you're going to have inadequate supervision. Another is the design that promotes um, rather than inhibits victimization. In other words, individuals are kept locked up for a long, long, long time. Short hours outside of the cells themselves. They go out maybe into the yard, maybe can exercise, get involved in something, but then they're back in there. So the design that promotes rather than and promotes victimization, and it makes you angry when you come out, and you can catch a case really quick, catch it really, really fast. And then easy availability of weapons. Do you know what a shank is? I know he's gonna say yes. You know what a shank is? Yeah. Oh, you've been stabbed already? Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. You're getting it from a person who's experienced, and that's everybody I know who works in corrections. Within the first, I say, month or two, you're going to have that kind of thing to happen to you, and it's a weapon that's made right there uh, from an instance from another rude officer. They were going through me to get to him. Yeah, and see, and that's part of the problem, is that you might not be the victim that they're aimed at, but guess what? You end up getting hurt. I got many of people who have injuries that take place not because they did something, but because somebody else did it, and then you got to support your fellow correction officers. But there are weapons all over the place. Housing of violence prone individuals near relatively defenseless people. Um, I know that in jail, as opposed to prison, that there are people who are in there who are who are first timers. They never been there, and or they call them newbies. And those individuals find themselves becoming targets. There's another term for it, and I can't think of the name of it. I'm drawing a blank on it, that my correction officer students have shared with me. Yeah, fresh meat. Okay, that's it. Fresh meat. That's it. That was it. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, and when you have those kind of things going on, those are the ones who are going to get hit first. We used to always tell people that when you go in, and if you're locked up in there for a while, be strong. Because if you're not, you know, so it's okay if you have to leave because we're almost done with the lecture. Actually, we don't cover all of the material in the lectures themselves. So we cover as much as we can. So I'll be adjourning the lecture in about 5 minutes. But these are things that you need to be aware of. Housing violence, overall high level of tension produced by the close quarters. With the special populations, you have individuals who are caught in a situation based upon what their needs are. So you have the individuals who have substance abuse, and they deal with these various issues that are in here, along with offenders that developmental disabilities, individuals who have HIV and AIDS, elderly individuals, long-term offenders. These are people who may have caught in what we call Habitual Offenders Act or three-strike laws that people might be familiar with. Military veterans. Um, People don't realize there's a small percentage that go end up incarcerated because of the things that happen when those individuals are there. sexual offenders. Let me say this. They have to segregate these individuals, particularly if it involves a minor. And those individuals are open targets. Substance abusers, we've already talked about that. And they're put in, yep, they're put in protective custody, the sex offenders. Offenders with developmental disability. Okay, so we're back to that. So that's it when it comes to dealing with the special populations. You remember that as you prepare your assignment for this week. Adult and juvenile correction systems, and this is where we're gonna stop in this section right here, is that individuals who find themselves that are juveniles, they find themselves with problems as children, and then it shows the differences. Uh, Juveniles start with a petition, okay, and and then as far as dealing with the function of those individuals, that is to more, you can take these and do this now. Let's find this juvenile petition. So where's the juvenile petition? Where does it fit in here? That's the formal charge. Juvenile respondents. Do they fit taken into custody, or which one? Nope. How about this one? That's where it goes into custody. That's adults. The legal basis for holding. Nope. Yeah, it goes in the outcome of the case. The juvenile respondent. Adult trial. And then there. So you begin to match these up, and you begin to become familiar with the differences between them, such as juveniles are not arrested. Okay, and you'll discover that in your readings. So that's it for that. So now your vocabulary review, I'm going to leave that up to you. Go ahead and go through that by clicking on this, showing you how it works, and then I'm going to get out of it and then I'm concluding. So you match these up. So let's just do this one and then we're done. Match up to one. What's the need principle? Okay. Responsibility principle. Then of course, this one. Let's see how you did. Yep, that's it. And so you go through these, and you want to go through these because they help you uh, to get ready um, for what is going to take place. Well, I'm out of time. I'm over time. I'm past time. Um, any questions before I give you the key? No, you don't have to chill out in the next class. I appreciate that because of the fact that you bring to the attention of students. It's like a teaching assistant having a student like you, and that's how I view it. So no, no, no. If there's something that you can contribute, I appreciate it. And I think that people in the class have a benefit. Uh, Yep, that's what. See, everybody appreciate. Now, don't y'all all be calling up Bryce about how to do the assignments now. Okay, all right. That's we get into some problems there. Yeah, but anyway, no. While we're in the lectures, not an issue. And one of the things about this course, whenever I teach it, is I teach it very loosely because of the fact that there's a lot of material to cover, and you know, so. So, all right, with time for the key phrase. The key phrase is something that I've talked about. I'll tell you what it is. Special populations. That's the key phrase. Special populations. So give me that, and that's it. We're going to say good night to each of you. Stay safe, and one of the things about individuals who are in corrections, and Bryce, you can't do it at home. You got to do it. You got to go there. And so, definitely one of the essential workers. Yeah, you try to leave it at work. That is one of the key things. Absolutely. So, well, okay. Good night, guys. You guys stay safe, and I'll see you next week. In this. All right. So, good night, guys. And again, thank you, Bryce, for your contributions. Definitely. Thank you.